Welcome everybody out to podcast number 420. So it's 426. It's 426. We're going to talk about Jack in the Box today. Okay, stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome everybody out. I am sorry, this is another one on the road, but I have to talk to you about this one. This has been teeming through my mind like crazy, and I have to get it out before I record 2 more podcasts tomorrow. But this is a really important topic, and I wanted to share the experience with you and relate it to Jack in the Box. So they're a big enough company, they could probably sue me for defamation of character, but let's go ahead and try this out anyway. Worst case scenario, I'll take the podcast down. But have you ever gone to Jack in the Box? Well, first of all, we know that this is not like high dollar food here, right? But so that's first and foremost. If you're going to Jack in the Box, you know you're just going for something quick, juicy, greasy, unhealthy. That's probably going to stop your heart and give you a gut bomb later, right? Okay, so that's number one. Number two, when you go through the drive-through, there's an interesting thing that will happen at a lot of different Jack in the Box locations. So they have a time limit set and a guarantee to customers that you'll get your food in a certain amount of time. And if there's a delay or a large order or something is going wrong, then meaning where the attendant, the drive-through operator doesn't feel like they're going to get it in time, and maybe you've experienced the same occurrence or the same situation, but they will literally ask you to back up your car. So the other day I go through Jack in the Box. I think I had just donated blood. I mean, so I was like really down, and you're supposed to eat like a hearty, greasy, nasty old high blood sugar, salty meal after donating blood, or else you're down a little bit. So I just donated blood, and I was like, I don't know where else to go. I don't feel like driving. I don't have a lot of energy, so I'm just going to go to Jack in the Box. So I went through, and I get to the drive-through window, and the person says to me, "Can you back up 2 cars, please?" And I'm like it surprised me, and I'm like, "What? Can you back up 2 cars, please?" And my mind wasn't processing really. Like, do you want me to get out of the car and go back to car? Like, I didn't really get it right away, so that was on me. But what he meant is drive backwards, put it in reverse for 2 car lengths, and then come forward when I tell you. But I had to kind of guess. He didn't say, I'm not really complaining, but he didn't really explain to me what in the world back up 2 car lengths means. So I back up, and I see a hand come out the window that says stay. And then I'm like, what's going on? So I stay, and there's somebody behind me. So I'm getting a little bit nervous. And then after a little bit, you can see him wave me forward. And then the clock sets off again. So apparently, and I'm not a private investigator, so I don't know the depths of this, but apparently they get graded, or there's an alarm there, or it's measured how long a car had to wait. I had a pretty decent sized order because I order for me, and then if I'm going somewhere, I'll get the kids. So that's probably what triggered it. But this has happened to me even without a bunch of kids, no less than 6 or 7 times. Now, 6 or 7 times in a lifetime isn't that many times, but if you multiply that amount of times by the number of people that go through the drive-through, by the frequency that people go through the drive-through at Jack in the Box, you're probably talking about this happens quite a bit. Now, what was the purpose here? I'm sure it was a policy that was implemented to make sure that the Jack in the Box people got the order, meaning the attendants and the cooks, well, I don't know if they're cooks, heater-upper people, got the order out in a certain amount of time as a promise for customer service. But I can tell you that every time that the back up 2 car lengths thing has happened to me, because I'm petty and immature, I've been annoyed. And I can tell you that Jack in the Box is not my go-to. And so I'm like super, super annoyed at this. And there's a lot of friction that goes into that. So they've got 2 problems with me right now. Like, I will keep going back to Culver's, even though they're an unlean company, and they make you wait, and they always get the order wrong. Never one. Okay, all right, hold on. The other day, Culver's got my order right for the first time ever, but they have delicious food. So they've got me there, right? So great. I love it. I will always go to In-N-Out, even though people that didn't grow up in California don't necessarily like In-N-Out naturally. It's more of an acquired taste, but I love it. Fast service, respectful, always quality, natural ingredients, and I love the burgers and I love the way they taste, right? So I will keep going over and over and over and over and over and over to those places over and over. But Jack in the Box has two strikes against them, right? So one, nasty food. Number two, there's a lot of friction to get there. The people are rude. They're not well trained. They're not always available. They always tell you to, well, not always. Let me not be dramatic here, but they tell you to drive back up 2 car lengths because they have some arbitrary rule that it has to be done in a certain amount of time. And so they've got it on 2 counts, you know. So I heard one time, and actually it was my buddy Jared, and I won't tell you his last name because I don't know if I'm just thinking if I'll get in trouble. Yeah, I'll just say his first name. But anyway, he was super funny. He and I got to work together quite a bit. And his point was, you can't multiply negatives, right? You can't be an a-hole and be stupid, right? And I could just go through a number of other ones. I don't know how many of those analogies would be appropriate for our conversation today, but the point is, if you're going to be mean, you can't always also be stupid. You can be mean or you can be stupid, but you can't be both. You can't multiply negatives in life without consequences, right? So, you know, you can't be slow and lazy. You know what I mean? Like, you can just keep going on. But I'll stop before I get myself in trouble. But you can fill in the blanks and joke around with your family members about that. You can't multiply negatives, right? So Jack in the Box is multiplying the negatives here. They have horrible food and bad service based on bureaucracy and a culture that isn't based on customer service. So here's my point. I've been in a lot of leadership meetings where leadership will make decisions to affect cultural change. And the bottom line, and we've talked a lot about culture on this podcast lately, right? So culture comes from, what is the story? Do people identify from that with that story? And does that story and the common behaviors and beliefs of the culture shape progress along that story? Meaning, culture will eat strategy every time. It'll eat strategy for breakfast, meaning it doesn't matter what strategies you have in place, it's really your culture. So if Jack in the Box wanted to take care of their customers better, they would actually like live and breathe and eat and sleep and die by that culture. They would act in accordance with customer service. They would act in a way that would produce quality food. They would believe that it's important to have quality food. They would believe that it's important to take care of customers. It wouldn't be some random timer at the drive-thru which triggers an actual opposite response. Meaning that if they're like, I want the food delivered in a certain amount of time at Jack in the Box, and that's going to take care of our customers, what it did, because they don't have the culture, is it triggered the opposite. It triggered employees cheating to look good, asking customers at their inconvenience when they should be on the phone or tending to their families or quieting kids or paying or grabbing for their wallet or whatever. Now you've asked the customer to back up, possibly increasing the opportunity for danger. I'm not being dramatic. Like, the car behind you doesn't know you're doing that, so you're literally backing up in a driveway. And I have a rear view, a little camera, but not everybody has the camera. So you're putting your customers at risk to back up, to reset a timer so that you don't get in trouble. That's actually worsening the customer experience. That's worsening your customer service. So the reason that I thought this was really important and neat is because, number one, we have to be good at something. And right, people that deal with Jason Schroeder, they know they're getting a subject matter expert with certain things. They know that they're going to get an end product. Sometimes I'm hard to get a hold of, which I'm working on because I'm spread so thin. Sometimes I'll go a little bit too fast. Sometimes there are little things about how I do business that somebody wants tweaked, and I'm more than happy to tweak them, and I'm constantly improving. But if I had those faults and I didn't deliver at the end of the day, and the training was mediocre, I wouldn't be called back. So that's number one. In any of our businesses, we have to know, what are we good at? At Culver's, it's the taste of the food. At In-N-Out, it's the quality, right? It's the quality of the food, quality of the service, quality of the orders, right? Wherever you go, there are different things that people are good at. What is your business good at? That's number one. As a construction company or as a project, what are you good at? You have to have wins and control what you can, and to keep people's heads up and to keep customers coming back and knowing what they're buying, you have to be good at something. Secondly, you cannot implement strategic changes to correct cultural problems. Meaning that if you make a decision, you're like, oh, we'll switch that hard hat, or we'll implement this policy, or we'll implement zero tolerance, or we'll implement a timer at our drive-thru, or what. Not only should we think about the positive outcomes, we should also think about, if I was an employee not bought into the culture, are there loopholes and workarounds and anti-cultural, anti-outcome things that are going to happen from this? But the biggest thing is, we cannot be just making decisions from the boardroom, from the leadership team conference room. And that is one of the worst things that could happen. I have seen over and over, time and time again, leadership teams making decisions without total participation and without asking the people that are on the front lines. Meaning, if like, hey, we're going to go and this happened, like, no kidding, I poop you not that this actually happened. So there was a development team, a continuous improvement team of people who had never been in the field managing safety as field engineers, foremen, or superintendents, that created an entire program in a silo for safety metrics and for safety implementation and the selection of software, without ever once asking a foreman, a worker, a superintendent, or a field engineer what their perspective was and whether or not that worked for them. I am like, you have got to be kidding me. This is absolutely ridiculous. If these decisions affect the people in the field, you need to get feedback from the field. If these decisions affect people in the office, you need to get feedback from the office. If these decisions affect a department, you need to get feedback from that department. And it's absolutely crucial that that take place. The other thing is, you cannot grade somebody or hold somebody accountable to something unless they have influence over that. I'll give you a for instance. There was one time I was working with a company, and they were like, we're going to start grading superintendents on their safety performance with self-perform. But self-perform was independently managed aside from the project, where the superintendent had no say on how things were run, how things were estimated, how the crews were composed, and the superintendents in the company were not asked in a safety roundtable or leadership group, or even in a committee of some sort, how safety could be managed on the self-perform level when it comes to orientations, training, measurement, things like that, right? Consequences, structure, training certifications, any of those things, right? So they did not ask the superintendents their input. The superintendents do not have control. And yet the company was going to grade and have consequences for the negative implementation of safety at the core level for self-perform throughout the company. And I'm like, that is not right. Not only did we not ask, not we, I had nothing to do with it. I definitely warned them though. Not only did they not ask at the superintendent level, they did not give the superintendents any influence over the outcome. But then they were going to grade them inside of a wicked system, as Adam Hoots would talk about, where they didn't have control of the situation and they were set up to fail from the beginning. And that is just wrong. So they're implementing things. So that's actually a good example right there. They're implementing something like a timer in a drive-thru, where now you will get superintendents fighting against the system, not supporting self-perform, not wanting self-perform on their projects, and you will actually have the opposite effect. And if you know anybody in construction, any projects, any CFO, they will tell you that self-perform is a large part of our margins on our projects. It's a large part of our gross profit. It is a large part of what our net fee ends up with, what we end up with at the end of the job. And so we have to have superintendents and job sites supporting this. So by a single action of saying, hey, we're going to grade your performance based on self-performed safety, which you have no control over and you have no influence over, and we did not even ask your opinion, you will have the opposite, what I call the jack-in-the-box effect, where superintendents and project teams actually start to bid and politic for not having self-perform on the jobs. So it's going to backfire. So I'm calling it and coining the phrase the jack-in-the-box effect. Is your leadership team, your project team, or anybody at any level of the organization issuing strategies or tactics at a siloed, in the room, not on location level, without receiving the right feedback, that will have the jack-in-the-box effect and actually have people push back in the wrong direction? I can personally say that I've engaged in conversations like that, much to my shame and repentance. I think that sometimes I think of ideas that could have a jack-in-the-box effect, and I'm grateful for the ones that I've noticed before I've tried to implement them. And what I've learned from a humble standpoint here is that I have to and get to and want to now get feedback from the people who know how to implement this. And these are the people in the front lines. And Hal Makeomer talked about this in two podcasts before this one, where we really have to get to the point where we have total participation. And I really feel like that's the key for our future success and where we want to end up in this industry and with fixing problems, and from a tactical, strategic, and logistical standpoint, making decisions that will improve our organization. So here's the current condition right now is that we don't, we have leadership teams and people making decisions who are unqualified. Yes, leadership teams, I just said that. You are unqualified to make those decisions yourself. You need to get the feedback and go to the place of work. Let me give a shout out real quick, and this might be a little embarrassing. I'm going to give a shout out to Ryan Schmitt and Lauren Atwell with Petticoat-Schmitt. They're civil contractors in Florida. And there are other companies that do this, so don't feel bad if I didn't mention your name, but Ryan and Lauren, every time I go to consult, they're with me. Every job visit I make, they're with me. Every boot camp I'm at to deploy for their company, they're there. Everything that happens, they're at the place of work. They are constantly talking to people in the field, getting feedback, asking for input, asking for opinions, including them, and financially incentivize them. They use Traction, What the Heck is EOS, The Great Game of Business, and a couple of these other really key books to manage their company, and they are a fantastic company. If you ever have questions, I'll give you their phone number. Ryan's a great man to talk to about this. But that is an example of and the other thing is, when we're going through some of the training and the organizational transformation stuff that we're doing with them right now, they pull in their superintendents. They pull in the subject matter experts. That is how we should be doing these things. So the current condition is most companies aren't doing what Ryan and Lauren are doing, and they are making decisions in a silo, which ends up with the jack-in-the-box effect. So I hope this has been helpful. My challenge is really get that input and make sure that you know what you're good at. Make sure that you're not implementing things that are going to counteract with the jack-in-the-box effect and go against what you actually want. Do not ignore the importance of culture. Do not try to enforce rules, or what's the way I want to say this? Do not try to armchair manage your way into a better culture. It's not going to happen. Don't manage from a distance and expect your culture to change, right? And make sure that you are driving success with total participation with the people that can actually provide the feedback to actually make the change, and make sure that those people that are going to be affected by any decisions that you do end up making have had the input, have influence, and do have control of the outcome before you hold them accountable to that. If you're Congress, you should never pass a law that you are not subject to yourself. Brian, how many times does the United States legislature legislate things that they exempt themselves from? That's ridiculous. If you're a member of Congress, you should live under the laws you create. If you are in a company, you should make sure that the people that are going to live under those laws have the weigh-in, the buy-in, and the influence to make a change if you're going to hold them accountable, and you should be accountable to those same rules and those same guidelines. So I hope this helps. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.